Is it playing the 70s porno music?
Gentlemen, welcome into another Monday Night Buffoon and Bockins. My name is Tanner Dawson of the Sports Buffoons and the Let's Talk Sports Pod Network here. And join with me, as always, Nick Bockins of the Bockins Show. What's up, Nick?
What's up, my man? It's back. I'm back, baby. I'm back off of vacation. Ready to roll. I missed last week. Thanks for the Scott Cobe in the nursing home, leaving the lights on for him and filling in. So, Scott, that 70s porno music that you play, that was Scott's like high school jam right there. So
that's what he lived upon. And speaking of Scott there, you said, who's the hat? Who's the guy with the hat on? That's right, Scott. We also have the good old boys fantasy football coming in saying, let's go. That's right, baby. It's another Monday night showdown. Nick, how was vacation? You got a chance to meet Johnny Cruz for a night. How was down in Florida?
Man, I absolutely loved it. I mentioned that the only thing I don't like is the time zone. I hate the time zone. I hate the hour ahead of the central time zone. It's tough. I don't know how people stay up that late watching sports. When I was younger and lived out in Virginia, I could do it, but now I can't. And it could have just been I was just drunk and high on the beach all day, so I couldn't stay up that late. I was on the vitamins a lot and just enjoying life, my friend. Got a good tan, feel refreshed, and sometimes you just got to unplug from everything and live life. So
you weren't as bad as you were at the first night of the draft, were you?
Yeah, I was probably worse. I don't know. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to walk around. I could just
lay there.
Yeah.
That's fair on that.
You know what I mean? Just chill out. Meeting Johnny Cruz was an honor. I told you, looks older in person, and didn't have a Yankee hat on, so that even made it worse off. Made him look older. So I give crap to Scott Cope being old all the time, and Keith, but I mean Johnny's probably only about 2 years removed. 2 years from now, he'll be joining that that nursing home that they're all in.
Dang. Johnny's probably not wearing the Yankees hat for a true reason right now. So let's be real. We'll get more into that later on, guys. We do have Jim Behringer and Jonathan Grishman here tonight for us, as every Monday. We get to talk the Stanley Cup playoffs and some NHL offseason news. I got some stuff for him there. And then we'll talk some MLB stuff with Jonathan here towards the end of the show. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, follow. We are also available on Spotify on the Sports Buffoons. So make sure you guys go out there and follow on Spotify. And we're also available at any other podcast destination that you listen to. So in case you miss the show, you never know. So let's bring them in, guys. Let's get this scene started. Jim Behringer comes on in. Jim, what's up, dude? Uh-oh.
Jim can't hear us. Jim.
Uh-oh.
We
were
That's
fine
not Jim thing. We were just talking to him.
We were fine on pre-show. Here we go.
Yeah. Must have been on play. Yeah. He'll join us again anyway. Let's talk a little this NBA, because that's something we both enjoy. Don't really quite get it too much into it on this show as much. What's your thoughts here on the conference finals? Jason Tatum. Scott's boy Jason Tatum came alive last night. Or should I say yesterday?
Yesterday, but yeah. Like it's kind of insane that the Celtics completely just bogged down the 76ers big two with Harden and Embiid. You had Tobias Harris outscoring him. You had Tyrese Maxey outscoring him. It was insane yesterday to have that game.
I'm not surprised. James Harden is the biggest choke artist in NBA NBA playoff history, right? Like every time the lights are bright and a team needs him, he's nowhere to be found.
Never. How many times has he lost in this round, by the way? Are we going on 3 or 4?
Well, I mean, Embiid's never been to the conference finals. Doc Rivers, he's got his one chip, but since then has a losing record in the playoffs.
Oh man! And then Scott's going to be there for Game 1 come Wednesday night.
Must be senior night. They're giving seniors discounts for Game 1.
1 minute. I'm going to make that bet for the Heat to win Game 1 since Scott's there. All right, let's give it a try here. We'll continue this NBA conversation in between Jonathan and Jim here. Let's see if we can get him here. Jim Behringer. Jim, you hear us?
Before I couldn't hear you.
Now we're good, baby.
You're back, baby.
We're back. We are back. Monday night. Look at this crew.
Hey.
Motley. Look at this Motley crew. Look at this Motley.
As long as
crew.
I get to be Tommy Lee, baby.
That's it. That's it. From those adventures down in Florida, I think you might have been.
Right. That's for sure.
Jim, let me ask you this. We were kind of talking pre-show. It's right. If the Kraken win tonight, it's Seattle night and versus the Knights in the Western Conference. Is this good for hockey or bad for the NHL? No original 6 teams, no Canadian teams, and 2 expansion teams. Like the Kraken have been around 2 years, the Knights have been around 4 years?
6 years, actually.
Man, time flies when you're having fun.
Right, exactly. No, actually, it's a pretty good thing for the National Hockey League. It's 2 more popular markets. I mean, granted, they are expansion teams, but still, Seattle, big market, Vegas, you could sell anything in Vegas, really. But 4 times in 6 seasons, the Vegas Golden Knights have been in the Western Conference Final. Incredible, the fact that they've been around for 6 seasons and they've been 4 trips to the Western Conference Final. And think about it. Yes, Seattle's not doing what Vegas did in their first year, but it's kind of like the same thing. To get a deep playoff run in your second year as a franchise is kind of unheard of. And it's kind of the way it is now. The rules of the expansion isn't like the same like it was in the 90s or the early 2000s where teams have to struggle. And I think that was the big thing. Like the NHL didn't want, well, obviously with the NHL being the first major pro sports league there, you're not going to want your team to struggle right away. And same with Seattle. You go to Seattle, you want your team to be good. So, I mean, look, the first year was not great, but this year they bounced back and they're playing well. And, they're in a tough Game 7 right now, trailing 1-0 after 2 periods. So, we're going to see what happens, but it's a goaltending duel, and it's not like it was the rest of the series where one team scores and it's a complete runaway. This has actually been a really good game.
And you got Seattle too. That's been a when they win on the road, right? That's the way they win games lately. And they shoot a lot. I remember talking with you at the beginning of the season. They had 43 shots in one game, and I was confused. I was like, is this real? There was a 20-shot differential. And so I think Seattle here, you're still got a whole third period to go after this. And this is a team that when they get going, this is a scary team as well.
Yeah, very scary. Now, I mean, it could just be the end of the line, where you need somebody to step up. Your goaltender's playing well. You're getting shots. Ottinger's showing that his ability, but they're the comeback kids too. I mean, they play well on the road. It's a team game, defense. It's only 1-0, so it's not like this game's out of hand. And we've seen anything can happen in the National Hockey League. I mean, you just look at the Edmonton and Vegas series and Jonathan Marchessault scores a hat trick in the second period, and pretty much the game's over. And so we've seen goals happen within short amount of time. So anything is possible in the third period. But Seattle's playing hard, playing tough, and Dallas has been here before. This group has been here before. And the fact of the matter is that Dallas is in this position without Jason Robertson playing to his level. Says something about the team game that's going on in Dallas too.
Who you like on the? I want to switch to the other side of the Hurricanes. I mean, Carolina Hurricanes and the Florida Panthers here again. 2 teams that these 2 shouldn't even be playing hockey. I feel like because they're in these Southern teams, but here they are for a chance to go to the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina's kind of been in this position before. They've been to the Eastern Conference Final now. I believe this will be their 5th trip to the Eastern Conference, 6th trip to the Eastern Conference Final. So, I mean, they were back in 2002, 2006, 2009, 2019 and now this year as well. So, they've been in this position before. They've won a Stanley Cup, and, when they moved from Hartford, you weren't sure what you were going to get from this Hurricanes team. But you know what? They've embraced it in Carolina. I got to say, going to Hurricanes games is fun. The tailgate's awesome. The people are good. So it's a college atmosphere. You got NC State right there, too. So it's kind of there. Florida, I mean, look, this is their second trip to an Eastern Conference final, the first since 1996. Time off for them. Look, it's going to be almost a week since they played, really, for both teams. So I expect that game to be a little rusty. First game goes Thursday night in Carolina. Casually dropped during the ESPN broadcast today. Like, the NHL is yet to release the schedule, and ESPN just drops it casually, saying game 1 is Thursday night at 8 p.m. on TNT, and they mentioned that game 1 of the Western Conference Finals next Friday at 8:30. I was like, but the NHL hasn't even released the schedule yet. You guys are just casually dropping this. But look, Carolina's been in this position before. I like their goaltending. I like their depth. Their defense is really good too. They play a defensive structure similar to what Florida does, but Florida's got the hot goalie with Bobrovsky. But again, time off. They've had so much momentum. They've played so much hockey. They've played a certain way for so long. Now you're almost off a week. Does that kill your momentum?
Hey, I got to root, I guess, for us Missouri boys, we got to root for the Panthers because they got our guy Tkachuk, right?
Yeah, Matthew Tkachuk's on the Florida Panthers. I think you got to give the team MVP this year to Walt, his dad, Keith Tkachuk, because he fired that team up, calling them soft at the end of the year, and they went on this run. But look, Florida's got to be patient with the puck. Carolina, we've seen, as we saw against New Jersey, if they can score in bunches and they can take advantage of turnovers. Frederik Andersen's a good goalie, but Sergei Bobrovsky's played well this year, especially in this playoff since he come in the Bruins series in Game 5. He's really shut the door. He shut the door on the Maple Leafs. The top guys didn't score for Toronto, and it's the same old script like it was in the years they went out in the first round. Where are the top guys at? And, how come they can't get a save? And where's all this stuff? And can they run it back? They shouldn't. But that's a different discussion for a different time. But give credit to Florida being there, and Paul Maurice faces another former club in the Eastern Conference Final.
Who you like in that series?
Wait, what?
Oh, go ahead, Tanner.
I was going to say, what's it like going to be if Florida knocks off the Bruins, overall number 1 seed, and then takes out the number 2 seed in the East as well? With Carolina, like what's that going to be like for the Stanley Cup playoffs and the excitement going into the finals, or if there is going to be an excitement?
Well, it'd be similar to how Florida made their run in 1996 when they knocked off the Bruins, they knocked off the Flyers, they knocked off Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, they knocked off some really good teams to get to a Stanley Cup final, and they just ran out of gas against a very good Colorado Avalanche team. Look, it's similar. I mean, Pittsburgh in 1995-96, Mario returned. I mean, they had one of their better teams, and they just couldn't get the job done. And Florida played really good. Again, hot goalie. I think Carolina, that place is a tough place to play in, and the Panthers are gonna find out real quickly. It's not Toronto and it's not Boston. It's a very tough place to play. Carolina is very good at home, especially in the playoffs. I would lean towards Carolina just because of the defensive structure that they play and the structure and the way Rob Brendamore has his team. They know how to adjust. Again, what Carolina team do we see? Do we see the first-round team that went up against a good goaltender, a good defense, low scoring, or do we see the Carolina team that can, play offense too? I think we're going to get a mix somewhere, but I would lean Carolina in that series just because the experience of being here and they know what it takes.
Jim, are you saying it's tougher to play in Carolina than it is to play in Boston?
I believe so. PNC Arena is very
loud. Take that, Scott Cope.
PNC Arena is very loud, and it's not like the other arenas. You're really close to the ice, and it's a very loud building. It's one of the, quote unquote, older buildings in the league. It's not like the new ones where you have all the suites and it's like cookie cutter. It's a tough barn to play in. I mean, just ask New Jersey. They're 3-12 in the Stanley Cup playoffs in Carolina. 2 of those wins came in 2001 when they went back-to-back Stanley Cup final. Now, again, some games were overtime, bounces, this and that. But Carolina, that fan base is loud and, cheer their team from the beginning when they have that siren go off.
I feel like you saw that in the Stadium Series as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Washington. You heard it.
You heard it. It's loud there.
Yeah. So real quick here, we got a couple comments to get to. Scott is thinking about he'll be there. Oh, wait, that's game 1. Sorry, that's not the comment I want. He thinks, what a game 7. Do you think this ends 1-0? He's about to live bet the game.
Definitely take the under live bet for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For sure, live bet. I would have done. I think there's an empty net goal somewhere. I think it ends like 3-1 or something.
Gotcha. Scott says he has Carolina in 6 already in the books there. So.
That's not a bad bet. That really isn't a bad bet.
Right. Steve, looking for more podcasters, get a hold of Dan Harris. He'll help you out from there for sure. Scott says Boston is only loud when the Bruins are ahead.
And Carolina is always loud, period.
When it's tighter behind arena, it's quiet as a mouse.
You Boston fans are fickle.
Wait, I got a great Boston story to tell you. So I was in Babson in Boston. My buddy was graduating. It was the night that the Flyers knocked out the Boston Bruins in round 2 in 2010. That was the series that the Bruins were up 3-0 in the series. The Flyers had forced game 7. The Bruins were up 3-0 in that game. The Flyers came back to win game 7. I was at the bar. We were in Boston. That place was quiet. You could hear a pin drop after the Flyers won. Pin drop.
Wow.
Like, it was silent.
Big arena too. It's inside, so it has.
Well, no, I wasn't in the arena. We were in a bar. We were just local.
Oh, you were in the bar. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but still, that place was quiet until Brian Scalabrine showed up.
White Mamba.
White Mamba showed up. So
saving the bar right there.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
That's insane though, how quiet they get.
Oh, bro, it was quiet.
It's just, do you think it's like that for Patriots games?
I've never been.
Right. I'm curious now. Just wondering, Scott. You're a Patriots fan. Let us know if that's like that at the bars for you when you guys are getting to.
They're all fickle.
They just quit.
They just quit. They're a bunch of quitters.
They don't know how to lose. I believe that. They don't know how to lose gracefully. Yeah, I believe that.
I believe that. Yeah, 100%.
Oh man! Yeah. All right, we can keep going, guys. Around this here, we just saw the conclusion of Vegas and Edmonton. Vegas taking a 4-2, and it seemed like Vegas kind of had the handle of the series from the get-go. Was there much challenge for Vegas though, Jim?
Look, I mean, the key for Vegas was staying out of the penalty box. They didn't do it early on in that series. It's automatic. The power play for Edmonton was lights out, and the regular season was lights out in the playoffs. Leon Draisaitl was a machine, Connor McDavid, so on and so forth. But the thing was that the Vegas Golden Knights exploited what the LA Kings were doing in round 1, but they just couldn't close the job, was that the goaltending and defense has continuously been weak for Edmonton. Vegas figured it out real quick that whenever time Edmonton took a lead, they'd score right away. And that's not a recipe for success. In the games that Edmonton lost that they scored first, Vegas scored within the next shift. Can't happen. That can't happen. Connor McDavid answered the toll last night. Oilers are up 2-1, but defensive breakdowns in their own zone, guys puck watching, just not making the smart decisions cost the Oilers the series. They didn't get a save. Stuart Skinner was pulled in 3 games. I'm just curious to know why they didn't go to Jack Campbell. He's paid $5 million a season. You saw Florida. Okay, Alex Lyon can only get us so far against Boston. We need to go to Bobrovsky. You're paying this guy. Now, that tells me they don't have confidence in him. If you don't have confidence in him, now you have to explore who you're getting. Because this wasn't supposed to be Stuart Skinner's team. It was supposed to be Jack Campbell's team. But in an elimination game, I think you have to throw him in. And I think you probably should have started game 4 or game 5 first off. Now, the Oilers relied too much on their power play. They didn't get enough 5-on-5 scoring. They didn't get enough depth scoring as well. Vegas got that. Vegas also scored on the power play. Leon Draisaitl went cold, but Ryan Nugent-Hopkins had 100 points in the regular season, along with McDavid and Draisaitl. He had 1 goal. Evander Kane had 2 goals. Evander Kane, I will give him some slack. He's coming back from a wrist injury. He had a lacerated artery in your wrist. Okay, fine. But still, where's everybody else? And Darnell Nurse and Cody Ceci are not good defensemen. And Vegas figured that out, and they attacked their weakness on defense and in goaltending. But Jack Eichel was huge for them, 4 multi-point games. You know, you had 13 guys now have a goal for Vegas. And that's something that they didn't have in the first round, but they didn't need to because Winnipeg just wasn't a challenge. The Edmonton Oilers had 10 guys with at least a goal entering the series, but it was the Leon and Connor show. And when it becomes that, teams know what to do. And they take those 2 guys away, even though McDavid scored again in an elimination game. Vegas figured it out, and they played good structural defense. And they got the better goaltending. Not to say Eden Hill's a better goalie than Stuart Skinner, but they got the timely save, and you got to give credit to the coaching staff for figuring out how to adjust on the fly. And they didn't take as many penalties towards the end of the series either.
That's huge. And I saw a headline on one of the news sites, and I couldn't quite click it it wouldn't load for me. But it said the original Knights helped lead the way. Is there really still that many players of the original Knights still on that team?
Yeah, so the original Golden Misfits, Jonathan Marchessault, Riley Smith, William Karlsson. I think there's like a couple other guys still left on that team. I think Shea Theodore is still one of the original Golden Knights that got, part of the expansion draft. Not too many left, but Jonathan Marchessault had a hat trick in the second period, 5 goals in the series, 2 multi-point. He had 0 goals coming into the series. Many people wondered where he was. But Wild Bill Karlsson, William Karlsson, Riley Smith, all those guys, Nick Hague, like all those guys stepped up for Vegas when they needed to, and they got the job done. Like I said, Edmonton's depth scoring was just not there, and the defensive, you can point to that all you want, but you look at defensive breakdowns. You go back to round 1, Darnell Nurse turns his back, trying to race it, go get a puck. That Stuart Skinner makes a save, goes in the corner with 16 seconds left. The puck slips through, Anze Kopitar's there. If you stay in position, again, just positional hockey, smart things. And the Oilers, if the Oilers really want to run it back, then they're going to have to get a number 1 goaltender that can stop the puck.
Jim, if let's say Dallas wins this game out here in Game 7, who do you like, Dallas or the Knights to come out of the West?
I mean, I like Vegas, just the way their team is constructed. It would be a rematch of the bubble from 2020 when these 2 teams met in the Western Conference Final. Stars won, but again, Anton Khudobin was on fire for Dallas that year. They ran into a hot goaltender, and their power play disappeared. I would give the edge to Vegas in this series. I just think they're a more complete team right now. Not to say that Dallas isn't a good team, and Pete DeBoer in his first year as a head coach with a new team usually takes them to a Stanley Cup final, but they're going to need more from Jason Robertson. And I think Vegas just has too much depth. And the goaltending you give to Dallas, sure, but what about everything else? And Vegas does it a little bit better. Now, again, it would be a slight favorite. I'm not saying Dallas couldn't win, but I think I would give the edge to Vegas.
Gotcha. What about?
So you got Vegas, and I about said the Panthers, but the Hurricanes in the Stanley.
Yeah, I think that would be a good Stanley Cup final.
Yeah,
but then again, you never know. But then you never know with this playoffs. We think all these favorites should go all the way, and they don't.
Yeah, you had the Bruins. You said Bruins. And where are they at?
They're home. They're golfing.
Oh man! All right, we got
hockey players golf.
Yeah.
Oh.
Actually, they do. Yeah. Which kind of makes sense. They got to hit the puck down low. They might as well hit the golf ball down low. So
yeah, exactly.
It works out in the same way. It doesn't quite ruin their swing with the puck. So
no,
you're fine there. I got a couple offseason things here. This is the first one here with Scott here. Scott says, I was at dinner with my brother earlier, and he is a season ticket holder for the Bruins. And he believes, is it Linus Ullmark and DeBrusque will be traded this offseason because of the cap. What's your thoughts?
I mean, look, the Bruins have some question marks this year in regards to their goaltending, in regards to players coming back. Jake DeBrusk wanted to trade. Now he doesn't want to trade. He's played well. He's got a new role. I'm not sure that we're going to see him moved. I would think Taylor Hall might be a cap casualty just because of what he makes. Now the question is, I don't know if they're going to move Omar. They have Swayman there too. Is Swayman the odd man out because they have a goalie coming up from the AHL? So again, is Krejci coming back? Is Bergeron coming back? They have a lot of question marks around that team, one of which probably just starts with your number one center, your top two centers. Both guys are either going to play in Boston or going to retire. And you know what? That's my thoughts on it. I don't know if I'd trade Olmark or DeBrusk. I like DeBrusk on that top line right now with Marchand, and they're clicking. But I think if anybody goes, it might be Taylor Hall just because of the cap casualty, especially if they want to bring back Tyler Bertuzzi, who was big in their playoffs this year.
Oh, man. And then, so another team that just got eliminated on a sweep, got the first round victory, Toronto Maple Leafs. They got Austin Matthews wanting to come back and wanting to re-sign, but it's Kyle Dubas, the GM. Is he going to be the one to do it? Sounds like he's on his way out.
I mean, look, Toronto had their media availability today, locker room cleanouts. Matthews, Marner, Nylander all said they want to come back. That's great. Dubas was very emotional about wanting to be the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He has to take some time. He's got to speak with Brendan Shanahan, the president of player ops, but he's got to speak with his family because it definitely took a toll on him this year. He says he doesn't want to be a GM anyplace else. He wants to do it in Toronto, but he's either going to be the GM or he's not going to do it this year. The thing is you got to get 34 settled. Him and Marner have no movement clauses that kick in July 1st. If those go in, they hold all the cards. If you're going to trade them, you got to do it before July 1. I think Matthews gets done, but again, how many times can you run the same group back and have the same failure? The top stars did not show up. It was they played so well in the first round. They got out of the first round for the first time since 2004. But they went back to the same script as it was in the other rounds. Okay, well, something has to give. We saw Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid take ownership. They're mad. They don't want to feel this way anymore. The season was a waste. You didn't really hear that much from the top stars of the Maple Leafs. But Kyle Dubas is open to anything. And this is the first time as the general manager of this team where he has not said he wants to run it back. He is now open to making the tough hockey decision about one of Marner, Matthews, and Nylander. It's not like you can move Tavares and his contract. Morgan Riley's there. But they also have guys that they need to sign for their depth. I think Kyle Dubas comes back, but I don't think Sheldon Keefe comes back. I think there's going to be a new coach there. But I think you're going to see changes finally in Toronto. And if they don't, then I don't know why Dubas is even coming back because they can't keep running the same group out and getting the same result all the time. I know Marner wants to be there. I know he's embraced the city. But maybe he would do better with a change of scenery, especially come playoff time. Nylander, I know he's the easy one because of his salary right now, but Marner and those guys are kind of replaceable. Losing Austin Matthews would be tough because he's a scorer and he's a center. And I think they're going to want to lock up 34. But the thing is, how much do you give him? Because, again, the uncertainty around the salary cap.
Right. And, I mean, is that more just in the fact because it's his job on the line? Essentially, there's a lot of pressure. Like, you need to get this thing right or get out.
I mean, look, Kyle Dubas, before the beginning of the year, the ownership group was not going to offer him a contract extension. But now that they went around and what he did at the deadline convinced them otherwise. He went out and got guys, Grit, Ryan O'Reilly, Nola Char, Jake McCabe, Lafferty. The list goes on of guys that he brought in. This team was the most complete team Kyle Dubas had. It's great you have depth scoring in the playoffs, but their depth can't lead the way. Your star players still have to show up and score goals. Mitch Marner, Where were you? Now, Austin Matthews in the second round. I know he hit goalposts. Bobrovsky played well. Not there.
That brings up to Scott's question. He heard Matthew wants to go to Arizona. Any truth to that, to play closer to his home?
I mean, look, it's since day one when he signed that 5-year contract extension, everybody's like, he's going to Arizona. I'm not so sure anymore he's going to want to go back home and play. I think he's on a mission to win it in Toronto. I just don't know if he's going to have his running buddy with him, and that's Mitch Marner. I just don't know. And Nylander, I know he loves playing there too. If they keep Marner and Matthews, then it's Nylander who's on the way out. And if Nylander is getting traded, somebody's going to get a good player because he's shown he can be a 40-goal scorer in this league. And he was the best Toronto Maple Leafs player behind Morgan Riley in the second round. Now, Joseph Woll played well enough to get this team victories. But again, the team in front of him just didn't show up, and that's unfortunate. Again, they just said in WrestleMania, night 1 was great. Night 2 was the same old crap with the Toronto Maple Leafs this year in round 2.
Hey, man, Jim, before we get you out of here, I do want to ask you 2 quick wrestling questions. What's your thoughts on the Don Callis betrayal of Kenny Omega? And what's your thoughts on Night of Champions, Roman and Solo taking on Sammy and KO?
Look, I'm not going to say I'm not shocked by the Don Callis betrayal of Kenny.
I told
Omega.
you a couple weeks ago it had to happen if they want to do a face turn.
Exactly.
If they really had to do Kenny and them had to be faces.
They had to, because I think he's probably going to be the manager of the Blackpool Combat Club or something. Because there's no William Regal. Now, I don't know if this happens if Regal's still there, but I like it because now you have Kenny Omega is truly a babyface, unless they go completely in a different direction and swerve everybody and say Kenny Omega is going to be a heel along with everybody else. I doubt it, but then again, you never know. The Night of Champions, look, we know it's a slow burn. Usos are going to turn face soon. This bloodline stuff, everything, what they're doing is really good. Look, Backlash felt like an NXT pay-per-view. It was really good. I liked it. But I like the fact that this slow burn of the Usos and the Bloodline it's great entertainment.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I said on when we wanted it to end on WrestleMania. They have been able to drag this and keep turning us. So kudos to them.
Yeah, I just felt like I think if Cody had the title with Brock, I think it would just been more meaningful because it's not just a regular match. And Roman's really hasn't done anything. He's just shown up to go to Saudi Arabia, and that's pretty much about it.
All right, collect that money.
That's pretty much it. That's all he's doing.
Scott says Usos will cost Reigns and Sikoa the tag titles, he believes.
I do too, but I think that's what I think, but
that's what I think is going to happen. But
they've swerved me the last time.
Yeah.
A couple of things here. You just said William Regal's still out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. William Regal is back in WWE.
He just can't be on TV for a year.
Yeah.
What the world?
Well, that's his contract. That's yeah.
Okay, then back to it too. Talking about WWE, I believe I saw something about SmackDown having their old logo on there, trying to make their world heavyweight titles something. Is that still correct?
Raw has come up with their own. The Raw has come up with their own title now, but not really. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, the new quote unquote WWE World Championship is just a participation trophy in my book. It just shows me that everybody was right about Cody winning the title, and that they realized it now too late, and it just doesn't. They just want to rewrite their own record books right now. And the thing is that new title just makes Roman's reign even less meaningless. Like, it's like, okay, this guy wants to hold the title over 1,000 days, but you just have this new belt. Like, what the hell?
Eventually, he's going to lose it. I mean, I like the separate belts on the separate titles.
But then have the guy who's going to be on TV, like, just be there. Like, just give it to Cody, and Cody will be there every week.
I get it. I get it.
But this wouldn't be a problem if we decided that we want a brand split. But that shit still doesn't exist.
It does in their own brain, but it doesn't on paper, really. You know
right?
what I mean?
Exactly.
Scott says Seth Rollins and can't lose to AJ Styles. And,
yeah, I agree. Probably, I don't see it. I like
says,
both guys. I think both guys are credible.
College Sportcast, appreciate you tuning in. So, oh man, Jim, always great stuff here with you. You know, obviously a lot more to come as we get closer to the Stanley Cup Finals. Soon to be. So we'll be a few games in come next Monday. Can't wait to hear your thoughts here. And then as we leave here, looks like I don't think it started the third yet, right?
Yeah, I started third period, almost about halfway through, 1-0 still. So
1-0.
So Scott's bet maybe be looking pretty good if it's just 1-0.
All right, come on, Seattle. Time for 7 right here, baby. 7
Let's
right
go,
here. Let's go,
baby.
We'll see what happens.
Right, everybody, go follow Jim Behringer on Twitter at Jim Behringer. You can find him on Twitter. Always has updates. Always has breakdowns. Go check him out for all your NHL or Stanley Cup playoffs, NHL news updates there.
Absolutely, yeah. Check me out. We got a lot of stuff coming. Off-season stuff, previews, whatever you need. It's coming along. A lot of stuff these days because the action never stops.
That's right. That's the best part about it. So, Jim, we'll let you go. Appreciate you joining us. We'll talk to you next Monday.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure, boys. Tanner,
see you, Jim.
Take it easy.
See you, Jim.
Bye-bye.
Always great to have the guy, Jim Behringer, in-house. Now we wait for Jonathan Grishman here.
We've come a long way from our non-having-ass hockey to now. Look at it.
You feel like when you hit the puck, is it good or is it not?
Yeah. Now look at it. I just want to say, in a 1-year time span that we've almost done this show together, almost a year now, we have expanded our hockey knowledge.
Hey, I'm following it closer now. Look, this is just intro year 1, right? So this is still figuring life out on it. You know, following it closer. I got to know a little bit of a couple of the goalies in the area. Got to know some of the teams and their backgrounds. Like we're getting better here. Like I think next year is going to be a huge step as long as we follow it through the off season. So
yeah, I think next year I'm officially going to pick a team. I don't know what team, but I'm going to pick a team, and that's the team I'm riding with all year.
See, mine's going to be Carolina because they look like the Chiefs and look like the Jayhawks.
So, all right.
I like the feel of it. Nice red, you know, that really good red. That stadium series was really awesome, and I'm like, hey,
yeah, I always want to go to. I would go to one of their stadium games like that. I think those would.
We'll have to see where they're at next year.
No doubt.
Hey, look who it is, Mr. Tufel.
Tufel, what's up, big guy?
Tufel, my man, what's up, dude? We just finished up some Stanley Cup playoff talk with Jim, so just waiting on Jonathan here. We'll talk some MLB. So let's get back to this NBA talk while we wait for Jonathan here. Are you surprised at like this 8 seed Heat, right? You have the 8 seed Heat, you have the 8 seed Panthers. These Florida teams are making a splash as they're pretty much no expectations for them being in that final seed, and they're just coming away, you know, taking care of teams. Number 1 seeds.
Not even the Heat, right? Like, remember they played in the 7th, 8th game and lost.
Yes, correct.
Right, lost to Atlanta.
7 seed.
Yeah. And then fell to the 8th seed and had to play the Bulls, and were losing in that game in the 4th quarter, and then they come out and won that game. You know, like this Heat team is on an unprecedented run. And you look at their roster outside of Jimmy Butler, do they really have anybody that you're like, ooh, wow, that's the guy I need to have on my team?
Bam Adebayo.
Bam Adebayo is just an overpaid good role player.
I think Bam's a great defensive kind of guy, and like he can play offense when it needs to. But outside of Bam and Butler,
Bam's not a guy you're going to build a team around, though, right? Like if you listed out all the players on all 4 teams remaining, you know what I mean? Like Bam is probably number 10. Number 5, 6, right? Like you're going to take LeBron, you're going to take AD, you're going to take Tatum, you're going to take Brown, you're going to take Jokic, you're going to take Murray, you're going to take Jimmy. Like, and then you're getting into maybe do you take Bam or do you take D'Angelo Russell or do you take?
Wait, D'Angelo Russell already had his chance, so I think
I'm
D'Angelo
just
Russell
saying.
here.
Yeah.
And
Marcus Smart is there.
Bam. Oh, don't give me started with Smart, dude. Get out of here with that crap. I don't want no Smart. And then I mean, you can even look if we're just talking about like who's relevant now and who's not relevant now, like who was relevant then. Al Horford's right there too.
Yeah, Al Horford. I mean,
veteran now.
Yeah, Al Horford gave Embiid the MVP, the business for two of those games.
Him and Robert Williams both took care of Embiid very well. Oh man! By the way, I was so mad at that game yesterday. So I took the 201 over because I'm like, it's 201, right? Like, surely Embiid's gonna have a 30-point game. Surely Tatum and Brown will combine for at least 40 or 50. Like, this should be easy 201, 198. That's your total score. And I was like, you gotta be joking me.
Well, when Tobias Harris outscored, or who was it, Maxey or Harris? They both outscored Harden and Embiid.
Like Doc has to be out. Like JG was actually right for once. He fired Doc Rivers on Saturday on our In the Hoop NBA show.
Is it Doc's fault? Is it? Yes, but like, where was James Harden? Was atrocious yesterday. He's throwing the ball out of the stands, bouncing it off his foot.
He was a Brooklyn Nets Harden.
Joel Embiid is your MVP.
I tell you, it was 200 even. I didn't do math, dude. It wasn't 202, and that's all I cared about. I want to be 202. Dang it, Scott, why you got to do this to me?
Joel Embiid was MVP yesterday. He is MVP of this league, and he's supposed to put up 30. He's supposed to put up 30 or so.
So let's throw this out there, right? Who has been a bigger disappointment in MVP years? Joker, or Embiid?
I think Embiid this time because Joker last year didn't have it. Who was his running mate? You know what I mean? Yeah, like Jamal Murray's been hurt.
Murray was out the end of the previous year, his first MVP year. So you didn't have Murray. You're already a 6 or 7 seed then, anyways.
Yeah.
So you weren't expected to go far. You were a 6 or 7 seed last year because you were still without Murray, and Murray was just starting to come back from his injury. So you didn't have a full Murray. And now Embiid, who has a healthy James Harden, who has a Tobias Harris, who has a Tyrese Maxey, a healthy roster, and he came out there. He looked good at times too. And I just think Embiid is the correct answer on that. Like, you were a higher seed, you were more dominant throughout the season than Joker. Like, Joker was dominant. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying his team overall.
Yeah,
more disappointment range.
Well, here's the stat to back that up. Here we go. Joel Embiid averaged 33.1 points per game in the regular season and 23.7 points per game in the playoffs. That drop off of negative 9.4 is the largest by that year's MVP in NBA history.
Wow.
So he's almost averaging 10 points below his regular season average.
Man, if only MVPs went into the playoffs a little bit, and I mean, this is what the stuff that Jason complains about all the time. He complained about the last 2 years with Joker saying, "Oh, he ain't gonna do shit in the playoffs. And he doesn't, but he's a 6-7 seed. And now you got a guy that you were hoping to get last year, but he missed too many games last year to get to the MVP, and he's a higher seed this year. He gets his MVP, and he does that. That's his performance. I don't know. Do you think there's a curse out there?
Nowhere to be found. There's nowhere. Doc Rivers has like I said, we talked previously, he has a losing record on, since his championship in the playoffs. He's blown 0-2 series leads, 0-3 series leads, up 3-2, blew that series like several times. So either it's Doc a little bit, but it's also the process all at the same time.
So the last 10 years of MVP, right? Joel Embiid knocked out. Joker, both knocked out. We knew that. Giannis in 2020 got knocked out, but he won in 2019. right? Because they beat the Sun. Was it the
Yeah,
Suns?
2020 they were
Yeah.
knocked out in the bubble. Yeah.
Yeah, 20 they were knocked out. 19 they won. So 19 was the last MVP winner, Giannis. James Harden in 18, Westbrook in 17, 16 and Curry. Curry ended up losing that game due to them being hurt to LeBron James. And then 15, Curry won, I believe. Golden State won in 2015.
Yeah.
And then you have Durant, that was with the Thunder, and then LeBron in 2013 with the Heat, and they won that one. So, look, you're talking about in the last 10 years, 3 MVPs have actually won the title.
No, LeBron. I thought LeBron was that the year they won barely with the Spurs. With the Spurs, they lost that one year with the Spurs.
Oh, that was like this first year, dude.
No, they lost. They lost one to the Mavs. That was the first year together. Then they beat the Thunder, beat the Spurs on Ray Allen's last shot, and then the Spurs beat them on the last time.
And I'm looking it up here just to make sure I'm right, because I think they won. Yeah, they won the championship in 13.
Okay.
Yeah, they won in 13 versus they beat the Spurs that time. Yeah.
Yeah. So then there was the next year that they lost to the Spurs. It was the Ray Allen year. Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, that's right. Because he ended up leaving after that. So yeah. So still three MVPs in the last 10. That's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy on how we name MVPs during the regular season.
Well, as we look up all the stats, you know what I mean, and then they just fill them in, and it doesn't mean they're really the best. I mean, at times, I think LeBron James was still the best player. KD was probably the best player. They just, whatever reason, at times, their teams just don't win it all. Joel just didn't show up yesterday. Jason Tatum there's been times in he's been up and down that whole series and was finally balled out.
He was consistent. Yeah, he had 25 going to the halftime last night.
Yeah. Well, I remember game 6. It took a while. He was slow going in game 6 and finally got going in there in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
What do you make of it? I mean, Doc
he
Rivers
had one game where he only played 19 minutes.
Yeah.
I think I lost Nick. So here we got Monty Williams will be the next coach in Philly. That'll be interesting. It's like a trade for Doc Rivers, who I think will probably go to the Suns.
If I'm them, I'm looking at Nick Nurse.
I am too. I'm fighting Brooklyn for Nick Nurse right now. Or Brooklyn, Milwaukee. I'm fighting Milwaukee for Nick Nurse right now. And I'm curious to see what happens with that Milwaukee situation.
I'm curious to see,
deal too.
Harden could go back to Houston. He's been linked to there. He loves the city. I think he loves.
Well, we all know what he loves in the city. So, yeah. Bring it on through, baby. Bring it on through.
So make it rain, baby. Make it rain.
I don't know if he'd go that far to go back. I think he'd probably stick around the Sixers. Like Scott here said too. I don't think I clicked on it. Yeah, I did. GM loves Harden. Harden said his relationship with Doc is okay. Rivers is probably gone. Yeah, Rivers is gone. JG fired him on Saturday, like I said, and they ended up blowing it Sunday. So, I don't think he sticks around. I don't think 76ers stick around with it. And I could see Doc being a guy that goes to one of the two that Nick Nurse don't go to. It's going to be Milwaukee or it's going to be down in Phoenix. And I think if I'm Doc, I'm aiming for that Milwaukee job first, but I think you're going to end up in Phoenix with Booker and them and Durant.
I don't know if I'm a team. Doc Rivers has got one championship, and it was on the backs of Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen in their prime, at the very end of their prime. What has he done since? Couldn't get it done in LA with the Clippers and those teams. Couldn't get it done now in Philly. But
what do you got to do as a coach though? Like in LA, you couldn't get it done because your team, you had Chris Paul being hurt in the playoffs. You have Blake Griffin, didn't play Blake Griffin style at all. And then you go to 76ers and it's the same freaking thing. Your MVP of the league gets outscored by 2 role players. Like what What else? And you have your second all-star, James Harden. Like, if you're Doc, like, you just sit here and think, like, okay, I don't need an MVP. I don't want an MVP caliber player. I want players that are almost similar in game, almost in a way. Like, they're not going to MVP because you can't win with them because they don't show up for you.
And how the hell is Joel Embiid going to sit in that press conference yesterday and say, we can't win 2-on-5?
We need more.
I can't do it myself.
You got to outscore.
James can't do it. What the hell you mean? Where the hell were you yesterday?
Joel, I'm a KU fan, right? You came to Jayhawks. I'm a big fan of yours. You did, you're a comeback story. But you can't be telling me that you get outscored by two of your role players, essentially, is what they are. Two of your starting role players, and say you need more. What else do you want? You have a former All-Star, a former MVP on your team who's in better shape and who got some rest the last couple of years on your team. You can't tell me you need more. I'm not hearing it. I'm not hearing it.
You got to do more. I mean, we just said it. In the playoffs, you averaged 24 points a game compared to the regular season where you averaged 31 points, almost 10 points difference. Like, that's not you, Joel. Take responsibility and look in the damn mirror. It's your own damn fault that you're sitting at home.
I feel like, didn't Giannis point himself out like, hey, that was on me.
Yeah, he did. Giannis said, hey, you guys want to sit here and say that, it's unsuccessful. Like, so every year I play and I don't win the championships, unsuccessful. Like, we still learned, we still got better. Like, I still got a lot to do. Like, that's the mindset you want. He never pointed fingers at anybody.
No, he didn't point it out. He didn't do the coach. He didn't do anything else. It was like, hey, these are what happens in NBA seasons, and I still got room to improve. Obviously, that we lost. So
now you find out, he wanted to guard Jimmy Butler on that last play, and Bood said no. Well, that's what I mean. Like, that's the coach's decision, and that's why the coach is no longer there.
That's when you find out the inner details. And again, Giannis didn't tell them that.
Yeah,
that was more investigation piece of things, and that's what came out. So it was definitely Giannis was not taking any shots at anybody. That's why I respect of his game. He's not saying I need Dame Lillard to come out of Portland to be on my team. Dame
tweeted underneath that quote and said, "Huh?"
Exactly right. You're not gonna let this guy cover Jimmy?
No, he's talking about what Embiid said. What Embiid said about he needs.
Oh,
he said,
I forgot. Yes, I did say that.
Yeah, he was
I
like,
laughed so hard. I was like, because I saw that somebody retweeted it on me, and I was like, yes. Like, tell him, Dame. Tell him, Dame. Tell him you need help. Oh man! All right, let's see here. Scott just throw something in here. Oh, never mind. He didn't. All right, let's bring him in, guys. It's time to switch subjects here. We got the man here to talk some Major League Baseball news coming into play. Jonathan Grishman. Jonathan, what's up, dude?
How's it going, fellas?
Hey, how was the weekend, dude?
Wet. We got rained out on Sunday a little bit. We ended up still getting to play, but it was just kind of a sloppy and rainy, springtime Texas weather. We're getting rained on out here as well. We had to be outside, and then some of the teams had to be inside, and this rain honestly stresses me out too much. Trying to play mix and match on where to be, but as far as the weekend though, the girls played well. It was a little bit of a challenge this weekend, but having the weather be what it was, it's hard. It's at a young age, it's definitely hard to be able to compete with and it's all the teams too. It's not just us, but it's hard to be able to go out there and play how we were expected to play when the weather just doesn't cooperate.
Exactly. Scott says Jonathan is in a cave, it looks like. Dark baseball field, buddy. Just dark baseball field.
Yeah. No, this parking lot doesn't have a lot of lights out here, unfortunately. So,
I mean, that'd still be cool in the cave there. So, real quick here, just want to let you know that your team and Nick's team, I was very disappointed in them this weekend. Threw a couple bets down there, positive money. Very winnable.
That's your problem. You bet on the Cubs, so I don't come.
Look,
don't.
I didn't have as much hope for your team, Nick, as I had bigger hopes for Atlanta because they had the lead a couple times and just couldn't hold on. Man, what's up with the Braves here this last week?
Some bullpen issues right now. Again, I know our starting pitching has kind of taken a shot with Kyle Wright, and he's been moved to the 60-day IL with a second shoulder strain. and something that at that point you have to be very cautious with. So, speaking from somebody who's had shoulder surgery, you want to make sure you don't escalate the injury. So moving to the 60-day, they already said he's going to be out over 2 months anyway. So there's no reason to have him on the 10-day IL to just sit and take up the spot when his day comes off. So put him on the IL on the 60-day and kind of opens up that spot from there. Max Fried is also out for potentially 2 months. So your number 1 and number 2 from last season, the top 5 Cy Young, candidate, and the NL wins leader in 2022 in Kyle Wright, both have pitched very limited this season and now back on the IL for both of them the second time. It hurts. It definitely takes a shot at what you're trying to do and your depth, which the starting pitching for Atlanta, it was deep. If you're healthy, it's very deep. Now you're going to have to see, well, Strider's going to have to, he's going to have to continue pitching well, which we saw in Toronto. He pitched very well. Should have won the ball game. Bullpen didn't do the job. And that's an issue in itself as well, is where this Braves bullpen for so long, for so many years, has been a strength. And we're kind of seeing that it's not as strong as years past. And you can go to Tyler Matzik. He's on the IL for the year with Tommy John surgery. You lose a couple key pieces, and Luke Jackson, who he left Atlanta. Kenley Jansen's in Boston now. You have Raciel Iglesias, but he's still kind of getting back from his IL stint he had at the beginning of the year. So there's a lot of struggles in the bullpen at the moment. I think that's a concern more so, I think, right now than the starting rotation. You still have Strider. You have Morton pitched tonight, and he pitched a gem tonight. Bryce Elder has pitched really well as a rookie this year. You have the young guys and Dylan Dodd and Jared Schuster kind of filling in holes at times to kind of just get some spot starts here, and then you're doing some bullpen games. And I think that's where you're kind of, if you're a Braves fan, you're very concerned of the early season bullpen days, because strong bullpens lead you out to a postseason victory. And that's what happened in 2021 for the Braves. The Astros bullpen was fresh last year as well against the Phillies. And you have, when your bullpen is fresh in October, you win. So at some point, will moves have to be made? I think so, to get the starting rotation a little bit stronger, to keep the bullpen fresher. Moves would probably be expected to be made for Atlanta, but there's some concern right now as far as all these injuries that are long-term injuries. It's some concern.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they score 10 runs tonight.
10-0. Yeah, 10-0 tonight. So you got the good start against Allen going into the show this week. So that's a good point there.
The 10 runs again. You still have one of the better offenses. You still have probably the best offense in the National League. And you had your veteran, your grizzled veteran, and Charlie Morton close the door and shut down, which has been a very high-powered offense in the American League. It was necessary, and that's why you do have a Charlie Morton in the rotation. That if you need a stop, he's the guy that can go and do that for you to at least kind of stop the bleeding from a bad weekend in Toronto, change the scenery, and go down to Texas and just go and throw a gem. But the offense is still the offense. The Braves' offense is still good. Ronald Acuna is still an NL MVP candidate. Matt Olson is still a dangerous power hitter. Ozzie Albies is kind of getting out of his early season slump, and he's looking pretty good right now. That offense is still good. The issue is more so is how strong can the pitching be until you get Max Fried back. And I'm going to say if, because there's some talk that Kyle Wright may not be back this season.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So what, how much can you hold water until everything gets back, until you can fix the ship, or the ship sinks? And that's where we got to figure it out right now with the pitching. Offense is going to win you a lot of games still. That offense is dangerously good, but you got to make sure the pitching can be what they need to be.
Speaking of which, Alan is on here commenting for the first time to the show. I think I need to go into exile after the Rangers performance tonight. And it's actually 12-0 now per Scott. Yep. 12-0.
Oh, yeah. Marcell Ozuna, 2-run home run in the 9th inning.
Oh, Jonathan, nice. I want to go all the way out west. The Dodgers swept the Padres. Like, are the Dodgers still the top dog of that division? Like, are they still? Hey, you guys are we're daddy around here. You guys are just our sons.
Yeah. Which is odd, because we've said it recently, at least, like, Dodgers don't seem like they're the same Dodgers team, but
I told you to find a way. I told you guys that.
I know. But Padres, something's not right about the Padres though. Like something. It just feels very odd right now about how that. We talked about the International League. The two top divisions were going to be the East and the West. Obviously, the Central was going to be just kind of it was there. How top heavy both divisions were with Braves, Mets, Phillies, and then you had the Padres and Dodgers in the West. Diamondbacks looking good as well. But the East has been really all Atlanta. Mets and Phillies don't even know they don't know what they're doing right now. They're looking lost still. And then you have the Dodgers and Padres are still they're struggling and trying to at least get themselves figured out to move forward and be a contender too. So it's very odd to see what's going on in the National League as far as what we expected the top dogs to be, and only one of them has really performed to the expectation. That's been Atlanta. That's why I feel like a lot of the talk has been that I've seen on ESPN and Fox and everybody, Fox Sports, is the National League is all for the Atlanta Braves for the taking. They just it's there. It's there.
The Padres are already 7 games back. Like, is it time to hit the panic button like in San Diego?
No.
This early?
No, because you're so talented still. You're so talented. Again, those guys will get it figured out. It's just a matter of when. Like, when do they get it figured out? If we're having this conversation still, you're asking me this when we buy the All-Star break and they're still like puttering around, then yeah, I think we have an issue and a panic. But what do you do though? Are you gonna trade some of those guys? No,
you're not going to the manager. That's what happens, right? Like you're not going to trade those guys.
Didn't they make a move recently on manager?
Make another one. Hire Jonathan Grisham to manage the Padres. They need somebody.
Hey, I'm open to that. I'm open to it. No, but I mean, yeah, as far as a change with the manager, maybe. I think that's an option that you can go down that road because you're not like I said, who are you going to trade? You got Machado long term, and he can opt out here pretty soon. But and he's already stated he will be opting out when his opt out clause is there to do so.
I thought they just linked him back up after he said that for longer term.
You might be correct. I might be forgetting that aspect of it. So you might be correct on that. They figured it out and got the long term and got kind of extended him a little bit more on that. But so you have him still long term. You signed Bogarts this offseason. You have Tatis still on the long term on his long term deal. The only one of the group that's there is not on a long term deal is Soto right now. And Soto's not showing you a lot really to say, yeah, we're going to sign you to a 10-year, $400 million contract or $300 million contract either at the moment. So, I mean, he's still going to get that deal because of the potential of what he is, but if you're San Diego and you're seeing a struggle still, and he didn't blow you away last year after trading for him either. So how inclined are you to give him a $300 million deal on top of what you gave Machado and on top of what you gave Tatis? You signed Cronenworth, again, not the same amount of money, but you signed him to a long-term deal. How inclined are you to give Soto a $300+ million contract if since you traded for him, he's been below expectations? So are they going to blow it up? No, they're not going to blow it up. Could they do a manager change? Maybe.
So they just hired Bob Melvin starting last year. So 2022 was his first season. So they got him again. So I doubt they'd make a manager change.
Last year. No, because he went to he took him to the NLCS last year too.
Yeah, I don't see why you trade a guy or they were rid of a guy like that.
But even last year, they struggled all the way up until like the last month and a half. And remember, they were in the wild card. It's not like they won the division. No, now they beat the Dodgers in the playoffs.
You're looking at the same sequence of what they're going to do this year. This is what we were talking about the Cardinals a couple of weeks ago of doing. This is a team that's going to hang around that second and third place spot. And then when they get to the All-Star break, then it's going to be, hey, we really got to step it up here. We got too much talent.
When you're 7 games – I get what you're saying, but when you're 7 games back, maybe I'm just at the old school mindset of, hey, once you're 10 games back, it's over.
We saw the Braves.
Is that no longer?
You saw the Braves do that. They were 10 games back after the All-Star break, and they fought themselves way to win the division. So again, Are they capable of it? Talent-wise, yeah, they're capable to hang around and compete with them. Are they falling under expectations? Yeah. You're not firing Bob Melvin right now. You brought him in for a reason to handle. He's the guy who can handle the personalities of $300 million contracts up and down this lineup, and the pitchers that you have as well. They're just, at this point, you're blaming at this point in my eyes, you're looking at the players and saying, y'all got to play better. We're paying you top dollar, 300 million, 300 million, 300 million, 80 million, 100 million, pitchers that you're making 200 million, 150 million. There's a lot of money
that
has been shelled out to this team. They have to perform. That's not Bob Melvin's fault. Will Melvin get some of the blame? Yeah, of course you're going to get some of the blame being the manager, but at this point, it's the players that have got to do the job. This is the year for the division to be for the taking for the Padres, and with the Dodgers being a weaker team than what we've seen from them over the last 6-7 years, there's no excuse for the Padres right now. I don't put that on Melvin. I put that on the players. I put that on Machado. I put that on Soto. I put that on. And I know Tatis just came back recently, but it is on Tatis. It is on Bogarts, and Bogarts is playing he's really the only one who's really been playing as well as he could play. There's a lot of blame, but I don't think Melvin is the reason that you blame them.
Yeah. And so, Nick, you had like the Philadelphia Phillies last year who snuck in the wild card. I believe they were 13 down at one time and then snuck in kind of there with the Milwaukee collapse. So, speaking of the Phillies, Jonathan, there was a brawl last night. Bench was clear because Mr. Bryce Harper, that there was nothing going towards Bryce Harper way, but his teammates were involved. And we all know how Bryce is with his teammates. It's family. He's going to take care of it. And he went after the pitcher there. Like, what in the world is Bryce Harper doing? You just came back from an injury, dude. They need you on the team. Like, I don't think you can afford to have these kind of things go after, players just because they're, going after your teammates. Yes, I know it's a team game. I'm aware of this here, the emotions, but you got to be smart about, you need this guy for the future. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the days of fighting are really gone. Like, you're gonna get a little scrum and everything like that, and kind of they're gonna be gathering, and holding back and whatnot. But that's a reason why players love Bryce Harper, though. Yes. Harper, when he was younger, I say this: I was not a Bryce Harper fan when he was younger. He was a hothead young guy that just that put himself on the pedestal because that was what the media portrayed him to be and everything like that. He has grown over me on these years because, again, at the end of the day, what he does things. He does say and do the right things. The issue was to Kyle Schwarber as a leader, and he is the leader of that team. Bryce Harper is the leader of the Philadelphia Phillies. As a leader, you will stand by your teammate and you will have his back, regardless of what anybody does. And if anybody shows you up, you will defend your teammate as a leader as he does. Does Harper go above and beyond too much sometimes? Yes, he does.
Oh.
He does. But that is who he is. And if he's genuine to that, and he has been genuine to who he is, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem. What if at the same time they go on a run right now? After today, they go on a run because he lit a fire in that roster, on the lineup, because you know what? My leader had my back, and he stood up for me, and he went into the foxhole to basically prove to anybody don't show us up just because of we're the defending NL champs. Don't you come after us? What if they go on a run? Let's say they go 10-game winning streak after that. Everybody's gonna be like, that whole team is gonna go, that was the moment that got us fired up and got us going in the right direction. Again, if a fight like the old school '90s fight breaks out of that, we remember the Cardinals and Reds back in the day, where Brandon Phillips kicking people and whatnot.
We have from the outfield just to defend his teammate.
Right. We have a little bit of a different issue when it comes to that, but he's coming after basically in twofold. I'm protecting my teammate because my teammate's getting shown up by some relief pitcher that, it is who it is. I mean, we don't even really know his name. That's how I'm sure he's looking at it. Goes, we don't even know who you are. And you're showing up about my teammate. And number two, I'm going to fire up some my teammates. I'm going to inject a little bit of a life and some life into this lineup, into this team, because we have been underwhelming this season so far. One of there was, and I would say this reference a video I watched recently, actually, with LSU back in 2019. Ryan Terrio, one of my favorite LSU baseball players,
former Cub, baby,
former Chicago Cub, and he talked about where you got to inject some life, find a way. If you got to go and punch somebody, go punch somebody to inject a little bit of life into your team. Then go do it. Go do it head on and kind of get yourself going in that direction. Harper is an emotional guy who plays the game one way, and that's the only way he knows, and that is 100% as hard as possible. And if he needs to inject a little bit of life, he's going to do it. And that was probably his way of trying to get the team up a little bit more and fired up to say, that's what everybody thinks of us. That's what the Colorado Rockies looked over at us as a team, and they think that they're going to clap at us because they got off the field. No, not in front of me. So I don't have a problem to an extent of it. I don't have a problem with Bryce Harper did, because he's genuine to who he is. He's protecting his player as a leader, but he's probably firing up his team and getting a little bit of life in them and saying, we got to figure this out. We got to play with a little bit more emotion to get this turned around, because if we don't, Atlanta is playing good ball, even though, again, it didn't matter, they got swept this weekend, but they're still a damn good team in Atlanta. They're 5-time division champions. We got to do something to catch them.
And it's not starting tonight. That run won't start tonight. They're losing 2-6 to the Giants. So, but maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow the 10-game win streak starts, baby. It's just, I don't know. It just came to me that, like, hey, like you just came back from an injury. We got you back. Like, you would hate to see something happen that would affect.
I'm sure Rob Thompson and the front office pulled him to the side and said, look, love you, love what you're doing, love the passion, the fire. But having that conversation says, we can't have you getting pushed around into the scrum, that in that, and something goes, like you get knocked off your feet and you land on your elbow. Yeah, we can't have that. So I'm sure that conversation happened after the fact, and just said, please be smart, don't do something stupid.
Please don't.
But yeah.
Second place, Philadelphia Phillies. Yeah. So, Nick, what you got?
Man, I ain't got nothing else.
Nothing
I've been gone
else
for a week.
Oh yeah, that's right. You were disconnected out there in Florida, Johnny Cruz. Man, I forgot about that. So I'm gonna stick here with the NL East here. Look, the Mets are in just a stinker right now. They're sitting second to last place, about to take over last place from Washington at this point. Like, what is up with this team?
They were a roster with a lot of holes, and they didn't do anything to better the roster. Like it's the same team from last year. Is who?
Do they really want Correa that much? Like, would a Correa help them this a little bit better?
No, because I mean, not really. I don't. He was going to play out of position. They're going to put him at third base. I mean, that was and what is Correa doing offensively right now in Minnesota? You think hearing boos in Minnesota is bad? Can you imagine him playing like he's been playing in Queens, New York?
That's true. If the Twins are booing you,
I think it would have been worse. So no, I don't. Correa could have helped a little bit, but I don't think he would. I don't think he was the answer. You have a flawed roster. You have a team that has no identity offensively. That you have a power hitter in Pete Alonso who is performing. You have guys that get on base, but other than Pete Alonso, who drives them in? You don't have guys that can, like, again, and I'm not trying to be the homer and just say the Braves this and Braves this, but go down the Braves lineup. Acuna, who's a leadoff hitter, when guys get on base on the bottom of the order, they get on base, they turn the lineup card over. What does he do? He drives in runs. Matt Olson drives in runs. Ozzy Albies drives in runs. Sean Murphy drives in runs. Marcell Ozuna drives in runs. Travis d'Arnaud drives in runs. You have 6 guys in the Braves lineup that can drive in runs. Other than Pete Alonso, who's driving runs in for the New York Mets? They're getting guys on base, They're getting guys on base, but they're not being able to finish the job and drive them in. And that was the same issue that in the second half of the season for the Mets last year. It was the same thing. Beginning part of the year, they were doing it. They were playing well. They were scoring a lot of runs. Second half, they figured out how to pitch to them. They figured out how to hold them, and they weren't scoring runs. It's a flawed roster. Could Carlos Correa have helped? We can assume yes to an extent, but he's not doing that in Minnesota right now either. So I don't. They brought the same team in. It was the same players that had the same holes last year. And you bring in another 40-year-old pitcher on top of the 40-year-old pitcher you have there too, and say our rotation is going to get better. I mean, I don't understand the thought process of we had a team that blew a 10-game lead, lost the division, even though they won 100 games. And again, credit, they won 100 games. So that's probably their thought process too is, this team won 100 games. We were tied with the Braves at the end of the season. We just lost a tiebreaker. So clearly they're a good team. Yes, they're a good team. But they got figured out and they got caught. So when they figured it out last year, did they not think it was going to be the same thing this year?
Yeah, right.
And so that's what it is. Like who's again, as I asked, who's driving in runs for the Mets other than Pete Alonso right now? They're not.
Not very many people.
No. I do got one question for you. What is going on with Carlos Correa? He's only barely batting 200, only 6 home runs and 20
team in RBIs. Leads the team in rubies.
It's not saying much in Minnesota with that team, that lineup kind of being underwhelming.
Well, they scored 16 runs against the Cubs yesterday, so I don't know about
I'm disappointed because when we did our preseason show and everything, I kind of said, watch out for Correa because he's probably pissed off and angry about how things portrayed and how much he lost the money. He's going to go prove himself. The other side of that, and probably what we're seeing, is he's pissed off and angry, and he's kind of looking at he's on the other side of the spectrum and go,
is he forcing it? You know what I mean? Like, is he trying to do too much?
Well, no. I won't even go that far with it. I would say he's just disappointed. He didn't want to be in Minnesota.
But how many times have we seen a guy sign those big, long contracts and just absolutely stink it up halfway or for a full year, because they press too much, trying to do too much with that new contract?
No, 100% to agree with that. But here's the thing, though. He went from a 13-year contract to a 6-year contract, I could be wrong, $330 or $360 million that the Mets offered him to $260 or something like that with the Twins. Again, a lot of money. Not even going to say.
Don't forget whatever the Giants offered him first.
Right. Well, the Giants and the Mets, yeah. But he lost money. It's not that he was. Again, he had the 12-year and the $300 million plus contract with the Giants, 13-year, $300+ million contract with the Mets, and he settled. And I know I'm going to say this half-heartedly because if I could settle with a $200+ million for 6 years, I'd be more than happy to settle with that.
He got more money annually with the Twins deal, but he loses the longevity with
Correct.
The Mets.
And that's what he wanted. He wanted the longevity of it more so than anything else. He wanted the 12 or 13-year contract in it. I think he's just more disappointed. I think he's just disappointed with the outcome of everything. He didn't want to be in Minnesota. That was the number one thing. Everybody knew that. That's why the Twins never really entertained. They made the offer, but they knew he was not going to accept the offer. He didn't want to be there. He was ready to go to a bigger market, bigger home, bigger opportunity to portray himself. I think he's just disappointed that how everything went about, how his name got dragged through the mud in the physicals, and you're kind of seeing the side effect of all of it. That it's more of just him being down about what happened, more than just I'm gonna prove to everybody that they're wrong. I'm gonna prove to the doctor that I'm gonna be healthy for the duration of my contract and then some. Which is what I thought he was going to do. And I think we're just kind of seeing that he's almost like he's stuck. And he's settled on where he's at in Minnesota instead of being in San Francisco or being in New York. And he's just disappointed about things scouting, and that's kind of affecting him right now. And I think Minnesota fans probably, and they feel that probably too. That's why they're booing him.
Well, yeah, but you also got a guy, like I said, 23 ribbies, tied with the leading in this. Like, he's doing situational ball, obviously, maybe not all the time. But if you're 43 differential, 6-4 the last 10, and you're 3.5 games in first place in the Central, and you're the only team in the Central with positive run differential.
And that's the reason above 500. Man. At least if he was on the Mets and the Giants, he's sitting in almost dead last in both of those positions.
At least you got a chance for the playoffs here with the Twins.
And that's the recent numbers, because again, he was strong early part of the year. He was struggling bad. That's why that's why
like this last week or so. Yeah.
Right. He's starting to kind of turn it around, and he may still turn it around. Excuse me. He may still turn it around, and may end up being, like, proving to everybody, like, hey, yeah, I'm back now. That might be what's going on at this point, where he needed a reality check and go, maybe the boo. And I'm actually glad what he said about the boos when they asked him, how does it feel about Minnesota fans booing you? Yeah, I'd boo myself. If I'm them and I see me playing like this, I'd boo myself too. Hey, you know what? Kudos to you, Carlos. Kudos to having that mindset, because that tells me he realizes that he needs to play better. And sure enough, what we've seen since then, he's played better. So maybe that was a reality check for him, that it goes, you know what, maybe I just need to go do my job now.
Hopefully with the winning part, the boos, that's your realization, like, hey, I realize I suck right now. Like, I got to get better, but your team's also winning. Like, having that, be able to give that contribution, and knowing last year you blew a 7-game lead going into the final stretch before the playoffs. Like, you got to think that's all in his mind, knowing, like, I got to be better to keep this team constantly going this way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else on the Twins, Nick?
No, that's it.
Do you want to talk about the game yesterday?
No,
not at all. Okay. I had to get my shot in. I got to get my shot in. Oh, look, I don't see any more surprises. Congrats to Milwaukee. My brother swept his hometown team this weekend, so that's always a good feeling. Having the chance to do that, that was kind of cool to see for the first time. So, I don't really have any more MLB news. Not a lot truly went on in the American League side of things. Nothing really changed. The Yankees, both Sox keep flipping upside down at the bottom of the AL East. So, Jonathan, do you have anything else here for the MLB?
But isn't that always fun, though? Isn't it always fun watching the Yankees? Even the Red Sox too. Which, I mean, just because of just that's all we hear all the time for so many years was Yankees, Red Sox, and we're hearing more now about the Rays and Blue Jays and Orioles being the teams that are the competitive teams in the AL East. Isn't that fun? That makes me smile. That makes me smile. That makes me so happy.
I think it's funny. I really do. Like, you got these dominant teams with all this money, and they're fighting for last place right now.
Oh, God, I love it. I love it. So happy.
And then, for your sake, on the other side, you got the Mets trying to fight last place. Another team that built a bunch of money. And I believe San Francisco had a little bit of money in there, too, for a minute.
Yep.
And they're fighting last place with the Rockies.
Because, remember, this was the failure of the offseason of the Giants, because they had Aaron Judge, big offer that they lost out on, turn around and try to get Carlos Correa, and they lost out on that one too. My goodness, how many more failures could you have for a front office and a team? And then you go out in the season right now, and you're playing as bad as you are in San Francisco right now. Oh my goodness, I don't know how fans could be so could even be. They got to be sick to their stomach in San Francisco about just how things have portrayed over the last 7 months since the free agency started and everything. 6-7 months. Oh my
God. Scott says, "Okay, guys, save it for Allen tomorrow." Are we talking Cowboys?
Talking Eagles.
Oh, you gotta love it, Jonathan. What you got coming up this weekend?
Oh, we're back in action a lot again. Hopefully with weather, and this is kind of the typical side of Texas right now, where the springtime. Because the best part about it is these next 2 weeks is supposed to be kind of up and down weather-wise, and then once June rolls around, it's 100 degrees, no rain at all for the next 3-4 months. So gotta take one or the other, buddy. But if weather cooperates for us, we have 4 teams in action this weekend again. Our older 14U team plays, our 10U and 12U softball teams play, and my baseball team's back in action. And this is actually, for me, my last weekend of me not being a head coach. My 16U and 18U team season start up here pretty soon. My 16U team starts their first tournament next weekend, so I get to be back on the ball field as head coach next week. So I'm looking at it and saying, okay, trying to get myself ready to go. So, and I'm itching. This has been a long off season for me as director, and I am itching to get on the field and be able to be a head coach again. And still getting the coach with my other teams and whatnot, but I take a back seat mostly just to not step on my head coach's toes and everything like that. But next weekend, I get unleashed, and I get to be able to do my job as coach. So I am ready for that. At the same time, I know that it's going to be a long summer for me because I'll be on the road 5 or 6 weeks in the summer. 5 or 6 of the 8 or 9 weeks of the summer in June and July, I'll be on the road. God bless me. Again, I'm still working for us to get a Ford sponsorship too with the show and everything like that. So I'm hoping we can get that going here pretty soon. I got to figure out who I need to call, and we can get brand new F-150s or whatnot. We can get that going as well. So
I'll just send you a list of emails, dude. We'll figure it out. Well, somebody has to have answers, right?
Right.
We got to. It's again, I'm plugging the F1 Ford right now for each week with all the driving that I do and how reliable my Ford F-150 is. We got to get something going where we can get some a sponsorship from them.
I'm gonna make this short and send it to him, dude. That's all I'm gonna do.
Let's get it. Let's do it. So, but no, I mean, it's going to be a fun, jam-packed week. I'll be again all over all weekend. I'll be all over Dallas-Fort Worth. But at the same time, I'm getting myself ready for next weekend. That's going to be fun. And when you ask me that next week, I'm going to have a big smile on my face, and I get to go be a head coach that weekend. So, a lot of fun, ready, and like I said, hopefully, fingers crossed, the weather cooperates that we can get some games going again this weekend.
It's the one thing my brother told me. He's like, hey, coaching these kids and doing these, doing in the facilities are cool and all, but what he really wants to do is in between the fences. Be out there, man, coaching the kids and everything. That's why he left from Marshalltown, essentially from a great academy. So
it's hard because, like I said, I being an assistant coach right now, or even just a director, like I went and watched. I sat in the stands this weekend mostly and just watched that team play, and I'm having to. Like I'm almost trying to say something to the kids, and I'm like, nope, I'm not the coach. I got
place.
It's hard. It's hard for me because again, I want the team to succeed. I want to help my coaches when they need it. But I'll give you an example. We had a situation where we didn't execute the situation. It cost us the game. And I'm sitting here thinking, if I said something, we probably could have helped. It could have helped them win the game. But they don't learn. My coach doesn't learn. I can pull my coach to the side and say, hey, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? You got to be aware of what you're doing here to help them out, put them in a position to succeed. But if I yell it out and say, do this, they don't get better in that aspect because that's not my job. My job is to oversee. So it's hard for me because again, I want to coach so bad right now, but I have the director and the owner hat on, not the coach hat on. So I sit back and I make sure that I at least do my job and to help everybody out when it's necessary. But I'm itching. I feel refreshed. I'm ready to go.
It's time, baby. It's
time. Next week, I got to get unleashed. I got to get ready for
it. Hey, go kick some ass this weekend, then, Jonathan.
Definitely, guys. Definitely.
All right, man. We'll talk to you next Monday. Appreciate you, Jonathan.
Sounds good, guys. Have a good one.
You too, man. See you, Jonathan. All right, Jonathan Grishman, everybody. Look, man, that's always a blast there. Nick, man, what do you got coming up on your week back? Do you know? You got anything?
Thursday, will be me and Johnny Croops be back and maybe have a guest, talk a little NBA. And then Sunday, I got to reach out to Dan, but we're going to do a big 1-year anniversary show this Sunday. on the Bodkins for the Bodkins channel. 1 year anniversary of going live. So I'm just going to reach out to Dan and tell him to book as many guests as they want, and we'll talk. They can come on. We'll talk shit to each other and talk sports and just have a good time. It'll be a celebration Sunday night.
As many guests, man, you're going to be on all day. If Dan,
maybe it gets in the hour, 8 to 9, and we'll just, so.
I was like, don't you remember the Sunday shows? Like, remember that 15 minutes? Baby. You got to get them out. You got to get them out.
So they can talk shit to me, and I'll talk shit to them. We'll talk a little sports and, celebrate.
Love it. Love it. Like, that's gonna be a blast there. That's awesome. Congrats on 1 year, dude.
Yeah, 1 year anniversary. So this Sunday of the Bodkin show.
Awesome. Well, Wednesday night, guys, we got the Buffoons channel here. We'll be talking more NBA playoffs, conference finals will be underway. We'll be giving you kind of a breakdown there and some updated news. I'm sure we'll bring something else up in the meantime. And then this weekend in the hoop, more NBA with Scott Cope there. So good stuff coming. Make sure you guys hit the bell, subscribe. Don't forget to like the show here. So, and then again, we're available on all your favorite podcast sites. Make sure you give us a follow on Spotify or any other podcast site you are, so you know when this thing drops. Usually it drops out the next morning. So we'll be there in case you missed the show. Anyways, guys, everybody have a fabulous week. Hope it goes well, and we'll catch you next Monday night. See you guys.
See ya.